Hi guys, thanks for joining me today. My name is Jamie Glowacki and I am the author of Oh Crap Potty Training. Now, I didn't really want to be the poop lady when I grew up, but that's how things have turned out. So my full bio is available on my website at jamieglowacki.com. And I'm going to let you check that out on your own time. I don't want to waste any of our precious time here today. This webinar is going to take about an hour, and we're going to run through what I call Potty Training 101, the basics, everything you need to know to launch your success potty training your toddler. Okay, let's get started. So, Oh Crap was actually named for the look I see on parents' faces. It had started as a class before it was a book, and mostly parents would be like, oh my God, oh crap, I have to potty train. How do I do this? Where do I start? So obviously the name stuck when it became a book because, you know, the subject matter, of course, but also I'd like to give it some levity. So potty training in this day and age is wrought with drama, and most of it's in our head and what we hear from other people. So to start ourselves off, I really want you guys to begin thinking of this as just another developmental milestone. We don't freak out about any other milestone like we do with potty training. You know, when your child's learning to walk, we hold their little hands and we support them, and we don't get our panties in a bunch of, oh my God, I don't know if he's ready to walk. I don't know how to do this. No, we just use our parental intuition and we go with the flow. So if you just start by thinking of this as another developmental milestone, that puts you way ahead of the game. So the number one question I'm asked, of course, is what's the trick? What's the big trick? And I'm sorry to say there is no big trick. Unfortunately, there is no one thing that's going to seamlessly potty train every child. There are 12 million children in the USA alone today in potty training age range. So there is no one big trick. If there were, we would surely all know it. It would have been on Oprah. It would be flooding our news feeds. And if for some reason you didn't have it and I did, I'd charge an obscene amount of money. But there really is no big trick. There is a precursor to your success in potty training, and of course that is you. You are the big trick. It's your consistency and your commitment. And I also like to add, it's your nonverbal communication, or what I like to call your vibe, your energy. So consistency, commitment, and communication. Let's take a minute to go through those. A lot of people, try potty training and they're not really being consistent with it. So if you're not consistent, if you're having your child, pee sometimes right before bath, but other times pee in their diaper, that isn't consistency. And if you're really using a diaper when it's, better for you, better for the schedule, it's just not committed. And for nonverbal communication, that is really the big secret, you guys. Nonverbal communication, our kids soak up our energy, they soak up our words, everything that we say with our body language. And I like to use the example of, the first time you're going to bring your child to the dentist, you don't start off like completely worried. You don't tell your child, I don't know if my child's ready to go sit in the dentist chair. I don't know what's going to happen. No, you put on your game face and you say, we're going to go sit in the chair and the dentist is going to count your teeth. And we just put on a game face. We have this nonverbal communication that says it's all going to be okay. So if it's your consistency and your commitment and your nonverbal communication, let's talk about some things that actually get in the way of that. Because there are some things, some sound bites and some myths and some urban myths, and we've heard so much online on social media from our friends that certain things get in the way of us being committed and consistent. We are just waiting till she's ready. That, of course, is the biggest soundbite you hear in conjunction with potty training. Very, very noble, valid statement at its heart, right? We want to make sure your child is developmentally capable. The problem with ready is, number one, some kids just never show any signs of being ready. And the signs are really ambiguous. So often I'll ask parents, I'll say, okay, that's cool. You're waiting till she's ready. What are you looking for? And they kind of look at me with like a blank stare. So you just want to know what quote unquote ready means. I like to look at ready in terms of capable. Is your child capable of potty training. So this phrase actually has an interesting history. Prior to 1946, child rearing was pretty abusive. Children were seen and not heard. They weren't given a lot of affection. They were, it was pretty miserable being a child, actually. And potty training practices were pretty abusive. Children were tied to potty chairs, to the toilet. They were beaten. If they had an accident, they were left in their excrements. They were given soap suppositories to poop on command. So it was pretty yucky. In 1946, Dr. Spock came out with his first book, and I like to call him the grandfather of attachment parenting. He was the first doctor to say that children need affection to thrive. He was the first doctor to say that children feel pain, just like adults. I mean, think about that. He was the first doctor to suggest that if we are mean to children, they might turn into maladjusted adults. Even more important was he was met with scorn by the medical community. So he was way before his time. So out of that, we went into the 50s, we went into the 60s and 70s, and along with parenting, potty training fell under that umbrella. And wait till they're ready came out of that, meaning wait till they're developmentally capable, not wait till it's child-led. Child-led, and I must say, I'm an attachment parenter. I'm a very hippy-dippy crunchy mom, and child-led will get you lost. One of my favorite books is Simplicity Parenting by Kim John Payne, and he uses the analogy, and I take it further, which is, if you put your child in the back seat of the car and just have your child give you directions, you will be lost in no time. So, if we take that metaphor and expand it into life, if we just go with what your child wants, then the whole family is going to get really lost. So if you think you're waiting till your child's ready, I just want you to know the signs. I want you to know what you're looking for, because very, very few children, and I have worked with thousands of them, very few children just up and take off their diaper and let you know that they would like to use a potty chair or the toilet. Okay? Well, we'll be talking more about this as we continue. The next soundbite is we're just being really casual about it. Again, very nice in the heart of this statement. Like, we're not going to push our kid. We're not going to force. And I think this particular statement comes out of the current mommy wars. We're entrenched in a society right now where everybody's rushing. We're rushing academics, and our kids are going to be faster and smarter and better. And so I think this statement comes out of, you know what? No, I'm not playing that game. So it does have a really beautiful core to it. The problem with casual potty training is you extend potty training by a very long time. Casual potty training usually takes a year or more. The big thing I have against it is that you actually are sending your child a wildly mixed message, which is, we're going to do this sometimes and we're not going to do it other times. And there is going to come a point, either because of preschool or regular school or age, when you're like, okay, now it's really time to sit on the potty. And your kid's like, no, I kind of like this, once in a while business. So it just gets really tricky. Now, casual potty training is possible. The biggest problem with casual potty training, again, is that it just escapes you. If you're using a diaper, sometimes diapers are wildly convenient for all parties involved. So if you're not actively potty training, what's going to happen is the diapers are just going to take over. So if for some reason you do want to, do a really slow casual potty training, it's totally possible. Just set an end date for yourself and make sure you're constantly moving forward. Another really big in our very overscheduled lives, our busy lives right now, is we don't have the time to potty train right now. We just don't have the time. This is great if you are going to have time in the near future. If your lives are wildly busy, and they're going to be wildly busy, well, then you need to set aside some time to potty train. I once worked with two medical residents now, and they had one child, and they were pregnant with their second, and they were potty training their first. And they're like, we just don't have the time. And I was like, but you guys aren't going to have time for like 18 years. So you have to carve out that time. Again, if you're planning a big trip to Disney in 3 weeks, yeah, okay, don't potty train right now. Or, maybe don't potty train the week before Christmas. But when are you going to have the time? The thing I do like about We Don't Have the Time Right Now is that it's really honest. So one of the things we're going to go through today is I kind of want you guys out of the fantasy zone of your child's going to up and do this on their own. So few children do. We do have to lead the process. So I'm really about real world potty training and not being stuck in a fantasy about it. So when to potty train? When to potty train is the next biggest question after what's the big trick. This is absolutely more important than how you potty train. There really are some magical windows of opportunity. My age limit range is 20 to 30 months, and that is not written in stone. I have so many people who potty train in the 16, 17, 18-month range, and I have plenty of people who potty train after 30 months. But there is a developmental sweet spot between 20 and 30 months. Basically, what's happened is your child has picked up all their basic skills. They can walk, they can climb, they're learning how to run without falling, they can eat and mostly get food in their mouth with utensils. Separation anxiety has faded. So they have this lull, and it's just perfect to attend to potty training because the next developmental milestone comes after 3, between 3 and 4, and it's called individuation. And this is the psychological process by which your child figures out that you guys aren't the same person. So up until this point, believe it or not, kids think that you are one with them. So if they bonk their head, they think you feel the pain. Between 3 and 4, and it's not written in stone for that age either, is your child begins to individuate, which is they begin to realize they're their own person. They have their own free will and choice. This is the age of no. This is the age of power struggles and temper tantrums. And this is the age of contrary. You know, the sky is so blue. No, it's not. It's pink. So teenagers, it really can be nightmarish. You don't want to add pee and poop on top of that. The big problem is your child literally, for the rest of their lives, they will never physically hold the power like they do right now. They literally hold the power in their hands. So you cannot get into power struggles with potty training. Now, some markers to look for, I like the age. I think you can really pick an age. And really, right around 24 months, there is this magical 2-week window where it just goes pretty seamless. Unfortunately, they don't come with a manual, so we can't know when that is. But some markers to look for when we're looking for developmental capability. If your child can retreat to a corner or a private place to poop, that is about the only sure signal you're ever going to get. Your child is equating peeing and pooping with privacy. And that is natural, right? So peeing and pooping is primal behavior. Putting it somewhere definitive, that's socialized behavior. If your child is retreating to a private place to poop, then they really are ready to start potty training anytime. If your child shows any interest in the toilet and what happens there, and I'm talking about any interest, they want to be there, they want to be watching you do your business, they like the toilet paper, they want to flush, that interest is something you want to capitalize on. Many people think that interest is going to build into, Mama, I have to go to the potty. It doesn't build. It's just an interest in what's happening there and your bodily functions. Can your child sing the ABC song? Of course, this is a very rough marker. And if your child is not very verbal right now, that's totally fine. It's not a precursor to success. It is just a good example of a thing your child has learned by rote and repetition, right? They didn't learn the ABC song one time, hear it one time, and then they knew it. They didn't know that this would have larger ramifications down the line, that they'll be reading Great Expectations in 10, 12 years. No, what they know now is that it's a fun song. You sing it 100, if not thousands of times. So they've learned it by rote and repetition. And that's the deal with potty training. Can your child ask for a drink or food when thirsty or hungry? And I mean in any way, shape, or form. This is a great marker because your child knows what's going on inside them and they can act externally on it. And the last one is, can your child throw a tantrum? And this always makes people laugh in my workshops, but it's so true. There's an age for tantrums. And a tantrum, if it's not caused by being overtired or overstimulated, a tantrum is because your child wants something and you won't give it, right? In any circumstance. So your child is able to know their wishes, their desires, what's something they want, and they're able to act on it in a fairly manipulative manner, I might add. So that's a really good sign that it's time to potty train. Some other quick myths and misconceptions that we sort of have to run through. It's best to wait till your child gives you signals that they are ready. So a lot of parents, they'll say this to me, they'll say, well, my child hasn't even given me a signal. that they're ready or that they have interest. Again, I don't know what that signal would be. I've worked with so many kids and I've never really heard of a kid say, oh, okay, I'm ready. So we kind of covered that and wait till they're ready. Boys are harder to train than girls. This is a really popular myth that I'm really intent on busting up. So I've been doing this full time for going on 8 years. And it used to get me, this myth, because I have a boy. And I was like, are you saying girls are smarter than my boy? But it took me a long time. And about 5 years ago, I really found it. Largely speaking, and this is a huge generalization that is really turning around, but a lot of times it's the mom potty training a boy. So it's a male mind and a female mind. And there are broad differences. Boys tend to be more linear and more direct, and girls tend to be social learners and facial cues. So, with a little girl, you might be, your face might light up with pride and you might say, oh my goodness, I'm so proud of you. And with your boy, he might care less. And again, these are really broad generalizations. So please don't get any gender panties in a bunch here. I'm not like that. But so boys, I have found, work really best with direct commands, almost like a puppy. Go, pants, sit, pee, up, pants, wash. That can work really well. The next misconception is you can separate pee and poop training. So you're going to do pee first and then poop. And I am not denying that poop can be the worst part of potty training. Kids are really struggling with poop these days, and it keeps getting worse every year I do this. But you don't want to separate out these trainings. They're both bodily functions. They both go in the toilet. There's really no reason to separate these out except to extend potty training even longer. And I saved the best for last. Put the potty chair out so they can get used to it. Very, very common practice. I have a couple of problems with this. Number one is it is really, your child does not need to get used to the potty chair. It is the most innocuous piece of plastic in your house. When you got your fancy high chair or your fancy stroller or exerciser, you didn't just leave it in the middle of the room so your child could get used to it. You put them in it and used it for what it was meant to be. You probably took a shower, right? You put your kid in the exerciser and you're like, I can go shower. So the potty chair is not threatening. The thing I don't like about this statement is that there is a fantasy here, right? If I put the potty chair out, maybe they'll start using it on their own. Maybe they'll show interest. The biggest problem with this, of course, is that if you have put it out, you may know this, it becomes everything but a container for fecal matter. It becomes a stroller and a hat and a basketball net and a matchbox car storage. It loses its magic. It loses its power. And I always say to parents, you wouldn't let your kid play in the toilet water to get used to the toilet, right? That's not how we do things. So there's no reason to do this, and it will just lose its power and its magic. So don't put it out. And if you have put it out so they can get used to it, just put it away if they're not using it properly. There's no harm in just putting it away until you're ready to commit to potty training. Some other quick sound bites. Oh, I don't want to push him. We kind of covered this earlier, but I want to go over it again. So pushing a milestone, nudging a milestone is not the same as forcing a milestone, right? So you might, if your child's lagging behind in speech or in walking, you will definitely nudge things along. And that's not pushing, it's just keeping them developmentally on track. There are all kinds of things later in life that we push and nudge our children, homework and piano practice. We have to nudge things along. So if you feel like you need to start potty training and you're worried about pushing, unless you're being overtly forceful, which I absolutely don't recommend, you're not pushing your child beyond their limits. Potty trained means no accidents. I see this flying around Facebook and social media. When have you, as an adult even, when have you learned a skill and then never made a mistake? So there are going to be accidents. There are going to be new situations. There's going to be overconsumption of fluids. There's going to be excitement. There's going to be forgetfulness. There are going to be accidents. That doesn't mean your child's not potty trained. If you're having too many accidents, you might want to go up and clean up the process a bit, but there will be accidents, so be prepared for them. Are you trained or is the child trained? Again, I see this all over social media, and especially with, a younger child that the mom is prompting and helping out. I don't know why potty training is the only milestone that we absolutely throw our children under the bus. It's like, here, we're going to do this and you're going to get it and then you're done and I'm not going to help. And so you're not supposed to prompt your child. You're just supposed to put them in underwear and let them go. And it kind of makes me angry if you can't hear it in my voice. It's okay to prompt your child, and it's okay to know their signals, and it's okay to bring them to the potty. And it doesn't mean you're trained. It means you're supporting your child in learning a new skill. And that is fine and wonderful. And the last common soundbite is your child's just going to regress anyway. And this is especially true if mom is pregnant with a second while potty training her first. Children may regress. Some kids take 2 shots at potty training. If you move, if there's a divorce, if you're under financial strain, if there's any stressors in the house, including a new baby, yes, your child may regress. But it is always better to get back on the rails than to start fresh. And if you were pregnant with your second and you're thinking of potty training your first and you say, well, I'll just do it once the baby's born. Look, I only have 1 kid, but I have watched enough people around me have more than 1. And the reality is 1 + 1 = 5. And the math just goes up exponentially. You're not going to come up for air. Juggling a baby with an older child is a whole new ball of wax. So do the potty training now. And even if your child does regress, you will have a lot of legs to stand on to get them back on the rails. And regression doesn't always happen with a new baby. I had a kid, I worked with a kid once who, he pretended that the baby was invisible. He couldn't see the baby. And so there's all kinds of behavior that can crop up with a new baby, but don't assume that potty training regression will be one of them. All right, the actual how-to, let's get to the meat of this. How-to, are you sure you're ready? You remember, you are 75% of this process. So let's talk about this. Clear your social calendar for as many days as possible. No, I don't mean you'll be stuck home forever, but yes, you do have to devote some time to this with no outside time constraints. So what I mean by clear your social calendar, I don't mean don't do anything for a week. I mean, clear it so that you can wait for pees and then leave the house. So if you have a tight schedule and you have to be out of the house for swim class by 11 and your child hasn't peed yet, you're going to start putting pressure on them to pee because you need to leave the house. Whereas if you can just keep your schedule sort of open-ended, maybe go visit friends or drop by the pool rather than take a swim lesson or something like that, then you can be leisurely around the house. And then when your child pees, you can be like, great, you peed, let's go. So that's how that's going to work. Of course, if you're working parents, both parents outside of the house, I do recommend taking a holiday weekend and taking a vacation day. So you get 4 solid days at home to attend to potty training. And we'll be going through more about how to leave the house with the newly potty trained. But daycare situations can be tricky. We're not going to go into daycares in this webinar, but there's a whole chapter in my book, and I've written quite a lot about it. So yes, I understand those constraints, but the more days you can have at home where your child's comfortable with people they know and love that are very, very close to them, the better success you're going to have. Make sure your sleep ducks are in a row for you as well as your child. If you are struggling with sleep with your child, sleep always trumps potty training. Please deal with your sleep issues first. Again, with parents as well. I am not going to lie, the first couple of days of potty training are running a really boring marathon. You really need to be on your game to be a good, effective teacher, to not lose your mind. So make sure, the night before you potty train, don't stay up binge watching Netflix and drink a whole bottle of wine. Get to bed nice and early. Think of it as training for you as well as your child. For now, nix the potty training Facebook status, just for now. So this is a huge one for me. It's a very modern problem, obviously. You don't want to put up, oh, yay, we're starting potty training today or tomorrow. You are going to get flooded with conflicting comments from every person on the planet. I don't know why potty training incites so many opinions. I feel like more so than, it's up there with like vaccines and circumcision. It's like hot. People have opinions and they get angry. So that's going to be all over your Facebook page. It's going to undermine your confidence. I don't care if you use my book. I don't care if you use my way. I don't care however you potty train. You do need to go in with a plan and just be really sure and confident in what your plan is. And that Facebook status is going to undermine your confidence. Make sure your partner's on board. More and more, I'm getting stay-at-home dads, and the mom is the breadwinner. When I first started this work, it was much more sided to the traditional mom stayed home and dad worked. But whoever's working outside the home, make sure they're on board. A lot of times they're not, and it gets sticky. And I've had a lot of parents over the years say, well, I'm just going to do it by myself. But your partner or spouse is going to be with you on the weekends and at night. Your partner has to be a part of this. So what I really suggest is trying to figure out why your partner is not on board. A lot of times the parent that works outside the home doesn't make a huge amount of decisions and they feel kind of slighted. So that has come up hundreds of times. So really try to figure out why your partner is not on board. Potty train the kid you have. I don't know why, but people sometimes think potty training is just going to happen in this wonderful Wizard of Oz bubble. It is not. Whatever child you have, that child is going to show up full colorful in the potty training process. So if you have a histrionic child, if you have a spirited child, if you have an oppositional child, if you have a child prone to tantrums, if you have a child who's prone to sensory issues, that is the kid you're going to be potty training. So just be aware of that you don't get this like pause button on the kid you have and you get to potty train like peacefully without all these other things that your kid comes with. Work with your child on manipulating their own clothing. This is something we all kind of forget about, but before beginning potty training, you can even start letting your child dress themselves and, helping them. You can help, you put on your pants, I'll put on your socks. You can kind of separate out the task like that. A lot of times we just completely forget about it and we begin potty training. We're like, oh crap, I forgot to teach him how to pull his pants down. And you run into trouble. On that note, make sure that you are ditching onesies, and I'm so sorry, but overalls have to go, footy PJs, anything that your child can't manipulate themselves. You want to be able to get clothes off really fast. All the cute little jeans with suspenders and zippers, those aren't going to work while you're potty training. Potty chairs and inserts. I get a lot of people who want to potty train without using potty chairs and inserts. They are, potty chairs are kind of gross. You have to empty the little pot that goes inside. I am a huge proponent of potty chairs, and by inserts I mean seat reducers. So they are the little seats that go on top of the big toilet seat and make it for a smaller bum. So I suggest go to a secondhand store and get, 5 of them. There's no reason. Bathroom etiquette is going to come later. There's no reason to pull a rug out from under your child. You are going to have minimal time from when your child recognizes the need to pee to actually peeing. So you want to make that super available for your child. I also am a big proponent of making it super available for your child to do this on their own if they can. So we want to foster independence as soon as possible. So they can't go in at 2 or 3 and manage the bathroom step stool up to the porcelain toilet where there's tile, hard surfaces. You're going to end up with a cracked head. So little potty chairs are great. If you are nursing, keep nursing. Do not attempt to wean anywhere around the potty training process. Your child is not stupid. They will equate weaning with potty training, and guess which they will choose? They will choose the breast every time. So just keep nursing. And oftentimes what happens is some children get very clingy. It's a really big developmental milestone. It's a really huge transition. So some kids get very, very clingy and may need to nurse even more, and that's perfectly fine. The entire process of potty training is really simply this timeline. We are bringing your child's awareness from clueless to I peed to I'm peeing to I have to go pee. So a lot of times people will contact me and they'll be like, I have a hot mess. My kid won't potty train. And it is never a hot mess. We can always whittle it down to one thing. And we like to see where you are on this timeline, because you may think you're not even close to the finish line and you may be at I'm peeing and you really only have one more step. So I like to do that. I like to show people this timeline so that they know where they are and they can feel more confident that they're farther along than they thought. Of course, a lot of people are bringing their child's awareness. Their child knows when they peed, they may even ask for a diaper change. But in case you are starting from absolutely clueless, this is the timeline. My book is separated into blocks of learning. Over the years, it had actually started off as days, and people were getting way too wound up on how long it should take. Your child is very different from every other child you know. They come with their own DNA, their own personality, their own stuff. So you cannot judge this by how your neighbor did it, by how your cousin did it. You cannot. Your child's going to be very different. So years ago, I separated the book into blocks of learning. So these are really quantifiable steps. You know when to move on, and you also know when to back it up. So just like stacking a tower, you may get to block 4 and you go, oh, this isn't working. Back it up to block 3. So you can always sort of bounce between these. And we're going to go through these slowly because this is the actual how-to. Pee and poop while bare bummed with or without prompting. Pee and poop with clothes on. Commando, no underpants, with or without prompting. Pee and poop in different situations, with or without prompting. Number 4, you're going to add underpants to the mix. 5 is consistent self-initiation. That's your child asking and taking themselves without your help. 6 is night and nap training. And 7 is college, and they will still need occasional prompting. And that's semi-facetious. My niece is 19 years old, and I still do have to remind her to pee before getting in the car. So it's not completely unheard of. So let's go through these really slow. Block 1, pee and poop while bare bummed with or without prompting. This is your first couple of days of potty training. This can take anywhere from, 8 hours to, 3 days. The younger your child, it will take a little bit longer. You have to be bare bummed. So a lot of people resist that. I prefer full naked if you can do naked. I know we're getting into chillier weather, and that's okay. Jack up the heat for a couple of days. The problem is if your child's wearing any sort of clothing, by the time they start to pee, they will have emptied their bladder by the time you see and react to the wetness in the clothes, okay? So you want to be able to catch your child just as they're starting to pee so you can get them to the toilet or the potty very quickly. Now, a lot of people are like, you cannot tell a 2 or 3-year-old that you're going to potty train and expect them to start to hold their pee and get to the potty. So there is going to be some pee on your floor. You have to prepare for that. This should take a few times. It just depends on the kid. It can take a couple of days. The child starts to pee, and you just get them to the potty quickly, but not panicked. You don't want to freak out, because then you'll freak out your child. With or without prompting. So, within even some kids, after 1 or 2 times of this cause and effect, you start to pee, you put them on the potty, they go, oh, I get it. They might just go. They might sit and pee the next time. They are not trustworthy at this point in time. So you have to prompt. Even, you're going to prompt until self-initiation, which is way later. And that is, again, not that you're trained. It's that your child's signals. This is the day you are actually looking for your child's both pee, I call it pee signal or pee dance, and their pee pattern. The difference is their signal or their dance. What do they do? Do they fidget? Do they look like a deer in the headlights? They're going to give you a tell before they have to pee. So you're looking for that, because that's going to help you when you're out and about. You're looking for their pattern. Some kids can stay dry overnight and not pee till noon. They really can. But just like college drinking days, once you break that seal, they may pee 7 times in an hour. Some kids are like little squirters. They just, pee constantly. So you want to check your child's pattern. You want to have a rough idea in your head. Well, geez, they just had a glass of water. Now they have to pee an hour later. So, and this varies wildly. So don't try to prejudge this. The thing right now is we don't know how they're filling their diaper. We really don't. We don't know if they're doing little squirts. We don't know if they're just letting loose on one big pee. We absolutely have no idea what their pee pattern is. So don't try to judge that ahead of time. And some kids can go a really long time without peeing. I call them camels. So that's what you're looking for day 1. Now, this is, and I'm not going to lie, I'm not going to sugarcoat this for you. This is going to be the most boring day of your life. You are going to want to poke a fork out with your eye, but you have to do it. You have to keep your eye on your child. So no phones, no magazines, no books, no computer, no Facebook. You have to attend to your child today. A beautiful thing can happen. I reframe it into the best bonding day ever. And parents report all the time how great it is to really just devote the time. They pre-made snacks so they don't even have to cook. And they really just spend this amazing time with their kid, puzzles and reading. And I can guarantee if you slip on your phone for 1 second to check on Facebook, your kid's going to pee the minute you turn your back. So it's really vital that you do this. And now you can see why I called it like a really boring marathon earlier, and why you need a good night's sleep the night before. So what you're looking for at the end of block 1 is that whether or not you take them, you bring them, or they go on their own, your child can sit with no clothes on and put pee and poop in the potty. You're ready to move to block 2. Block 2 is pee and poop with clothes on, commando, with or without prompting. So a lot of people, you may even know some in your social circle, a lot of people are like, oh, my kid's fine naked. It's when I put clothes on. This is a really big hump in this milestone. So you have to get clothes on. Unless you live in a nudist colony, you need to get clothes on as soon as possible. You are going to go commando. This is without underpants. And this is because diapers and underpants are very snug around the upper thigh and around the waist. Your child has a muscle memory since birth. Sometimes before even nursing or being fed, your child is in a diaper. We are breaking an absolute lifelong habit. Okay, so of course they have this muscle memory that this is what you void in this thing that is snug on your behind. So we want to erase that muscle memory. So it's just an unconscious reminder. I get some kickback. People think this is weird. They're afraid of bacteria. The deal is that most toddlers, you know, like you and I have jeans and clothes and yoga pants that we may wear once, twice, 3 times before we wash them. But toddlers get messy. You're going to put that stuff in the wash at the end of the day anyway. So it's just a layer of fabric. Underpants are just a layer of fabric. And if you think that this is weird and you want to go with underpants, go for it. But I can almost guarantee you're just going to get flooded accidents. So just be willing to do that. Now, this with or without prompting again. So you may be taking your child. Your child may go on their own. They may need help with their pants. That's okay. It's all good. Okay. So once your child can do that, and this will take anywhere, you know, this is your next couple of days, but they can stay commando for a while. And I'll talk more about that in a minute when we talk about underpants. Block 3 is pee and poop in different situations with or without prompting. So let's assume your average kid, this is usually around the 3rd day of potty training. Could be the 2nd day, could be the 1st day, could be the 5th day. I really don't want you to get caught up in like what day it is, but you definitely have to leave the house, right? You're going to start going crazy. So this is where you want to leave the house, and you're going to make sure your child pees. I call them easy catches. So, you know, your child's going to pee before you leave the house, upon arriving somewhere, when they wake up, before bed, before eating, before watching anything. So these are sort of the easy catch times. Definitely before you leave, and definitely upon arrival. So just like we talked about a little while ago, this is why you want to clear your schedule, because again, you want the pees to come sort of naturally so you can learn your kids' pattern. If you are putting pressure on your child, pressure is the number 1 killer of the potty training process. So if you're like on your kid that they have to pee right now, you're going to create a struggle, and it's going to be really difficult. Now, we want to talk about public restrooms for a minute, because you're going to have to hit some public restrooms and restrooms outside. I definitely suggest on your first outings, go to maybe a really supportive friend's house who knows your potty training. You want to use a foreign toilet that may not be a public restroom toilet. I am a huge proponent of bringing the potty chair in the car. Your child can pee in the car. If you have a little boy, they can pee right outside the car on the tire. I'm not opposed to any of those little tricks. You want to, when you do go to public restrooms, the first public restrooms you want to go to, try to see if you can manage some single stalls, those big family rooms, so that your child's not overwhelmed. You know, if you walk into Target and there's 10 stalls and the Dyson hand dryer is going off, it's just going to be really loud and scary. And that gets hard for the child. A couple of tips for public restrooms: carry Post-its in your purse. You want to put a Post-it over the automatic flusher. Your child's height will make the automatic flusher go off while they're sitting, and I can guarantee you'll be done potty training for a while. So you definitely want to carry those Post-its. And if your child is really sensitive to the sounds, you can buy some earmuffs or oh God, I can't think of the word. Those things that you put on to listen to music. you can buy some of those so that your child doesn't have that live sound coming into their ears. And so this is going to take you into now we're talking, this is it really. That's your big chunk of potty training, those 3 blocks. So if you find you get tripped up in one, just go back to the last block you were successful, okay? Number 4 is add underpants to the mix with or without prompting. At this point, you still may be prompting your child. They may sometimes be going on their own. Do not pull prompting out from under them too soon. That is also a really big killer of the process. You're going to add underpants to the mix. This is trial and error. Some kids, this is great. After 5 days, they're ready for underpants. Some kids, 5 weeks. I've had kids 5 months. It really doesn't matter. They're not going to catch any sort of bacteria by going commando. It's totally fine. But you want to try it. And what you can do is try it at home and see how they do with just the underpants. So you're at home, you take off all the clothes and just put underpants on and see how they manage with that. If you find that you put on underpants and just accident after accident, just take them away. If they were doing great commando, there's no reason to rush that process. 5, block 5 is consistent self-initiation. This happens usually within 3 to 6 weeks of potty training. So do not expect, before 6 weeks, your child really is untrustworthy. They may up and take themselves to the potty, and that is wonderful, but just be aware that you still have to kind of watch for their signals, and you still have to watch for their patterns. You can't just, if you're at a barbecue and they had 3 juice boxes and you turn around, you can't forget about that. You're going to have to prompt depending on the situation. 6, night and nap training. This is a huge doozy. I've written a lot about it. I have a few blog posts. I have a lot of YouTube videos. I have some podcasts. Some podcasts. I have 72 hours of podcasts, and night training is addressed in every one. So listen closely because this gets confusing. Number 1, you can night and nap train exactly at the same time you regular potty train. You can just get rid of diapers altogether. That is faster, and there's less power struggles because there's nothing to go back to. However, it is more hellacious, and you just need to be aware of that. So if you have the time, it's more effective, but you're going to go a little crazier than most, and that lasts for about a week. So the next thing that gets a little confusing, people always say, do I have to night train? Can't I just wait and see if they stay dry? Yes, you can. And yes, a large amount of children do just start staying dry on their own. But if your child gets to 36 months and they have not started holding it on their own and they're still soaking through their diaper, you definitely want to start attending to it. The bladder is being formed in these years, and the bladder walls thicken and get hard, and it gets harder to hold and consolidate, and the chances of having a lifelong bedwetter are highly increased. Now, the big diaper companies have really screwed this up for us. So a lot of parents just don't want to deal. I understand you don't want to deal. And so if you go into any market, they have nighttime pull-ups, and they have them up to age 10. Which is really bizarre. So back in the olden days, my generation, I'm 48, diapers beyond a certain size were impossible. You couldn't just get them anywhere. You had to get them at a medical supply store, and you had to order them, and it was a real hassle. And it made you know that in your brain, you were like, wow, I'm going to a big hassle. There have been bedwetters since the beginning of time, but not in the large amounts of people I'm seeing that have 5- and 6-year-olds in nighttime diapers, including pediatricians' children's. I work with pediatricians all the time, and they have 6- and 7-year-olds in nighttime diapers. So if you don't attend to it by 36 months, it just gets incredibly hard to do. Not impossible, but you want to get on it as young as you can, as close to that 36 month. So let's say you're potty training, and you're potty training at 24 months, and you're just, it's going well, but you're just not ready to night train. Totally cool. You don't have to. Give it some time. Let your child get really good at potty training during the day, using the toilet during the day, holding and consolidating that pee during the day, and they may just start staying dry on their own. If your child starts staying dry for 4 to 5 nights in a row, it's time. Take away the diapers. If you don't take away the diapers, they will go back to peeing in it. And I see this time and time and time again. There'll be a stretch of dryness, and the parents just don't want to deal. They keep the diaper on, and then the kid goes back to using the diaper. So you do want to attend to it. Now, there is the actual how-to is so brief, but the myriad of things that can go wrong is so extensive. So I'm just going to tell you how to do it. So at first, what you want to do is wake your child at 10 and 2. Not between 10 and 2, at 10 and 2. And that's based on, a 7:30 bedtime, a 6:30 wake up. You can adjust these times as needed. You want to be a couple of hours away from going to sleep and a couple of hours away from waking up. This is meant to be a sleepy pee, a very sleepy. Your child should be half asleep, low lighting, potty chair right next to the bed. Gently pick them up, put them on the potty. Psst, you can whisper in their ear the pee sound, and they should go. You can tuck them back in. That's how it looks. Now, if you, of course, have a light sleeper, you might want to not night train till you get that wrapped up. All kinds of things can go wrong. If your child wakes up in the middle of the night and is like wide awake and you have a 2 a.m. toddler party, not potty, party, then yeah, obviously you don't want to wake the child right now. So again, I don't have time in this webinar to go through all the scenarios that could happen, but I have tons of information on my website. And then what's going to happen is you do a 10 and a 2 to pretty much figure out where your kid pees the heaviest. So some kids let go really early in the night and some go closer to morning. So you just want to figure out where that heavier pee is so then you can consolidate those into one wake up. Hopefully, I like to tell parents, if you go to bed around 10 or 11, hopefully one wake up when you go to sleep will be plenty. Your child will, most kids do need a wake up when they're first starting because it's a really long time to go. Most kids are sleeping 10 to 12 hours. So it's a really long time to go without peeing. That being said, like I said, a lot of kids do learn to just start holding it on their own and you're off the hook and it's super easy. The last thing I'll say about night and nap training is there really is no such thing as nap training. Nap training, there's nothing we can do to assist the child. So you don't want to try to wake your child in the middle of a nap because that's not really going to work. The other thing about night and nap training is you are going to, I should just say sleep training, but that gets too confused with going to sleep training. You definitely want to monitor fluids an hour or two before. And I call this the upside down pyramid of fluids. I'm not suggesting that you dehydrate your child. I'm suggesting that you go heavy. So if you think of a pyramid and you flip it upside down, you're going to go heavy on the fluids upon waking up in the morning and waking up from nap. And then you're going to taper it down so that there's barely anything going in a couple of hours before. If you don't monitor fluids, you will have accidents. So if your child has to have a bottle, has to have a sippy cup full of milk before bed, you can't night train. That's just too much fluid for a little one to hold, and to expect them to hold that is really not kind. All right, moving on. My 3 never, ever, ever, evers. Please don't do these. Don't post on Facebook before or during potty training. We went over that. I cannot say it enough. It really will muck with you. When you're all set and potty trained, go ahead, post away, make it your status for a month, but just not before or during. Don't ask your child if they have to go. So throughout this webinar, I've been saying, you're going to prompt with or without prompting, with or without prompting. Do not ask your child if they have to go. You're going to prompt with a statement, a choice, or a challenge, okay? So what does that look like? A statement. Come, it's time to use the potty. Let's go, potty time. A choice. Do you want to go first or second? Do you want to use the big potty or the little potty? Only 2 choices, right? Don't give a whole bunch of choices. You'll confuse your child. And that works great. And a lot of times the choice actually will distract the child from saying, no, I don't need to potty. And a challenge works really great with spirited kids. I'll race you to the potty. I bet you can't fill that whole thing with pee. So you want to use these challenges. And again, that will usually distract the child who might otherwise not want to sit. And my last never ever, and I cannot state this enough, once you've begun potty training, please don't put a diaper on your child to poop in, particularly at the request of the child. Like I said, we're going to get to poop in a minute. Poop can be one of the biggest dramas involved in potty training. If you have begun potty training and your child requests a diaper to poop in, they are aware that the poop is coming. They know they need to do it. They're so close. They are having anxiety about releasing that poop, and we need to work through the anxiety. Okay, if you put the diaper on, this is a habit that I cannot fix. I can fix everything else. I cannot fix this. And I get nightmares. This habit goes on for years. And every September, I get about 10 clients who are kicked out of kindergarten because the anus opens upon stimulation, right? They're at kindergarten, everything's new, it's exciting. The anus starts to open, the kid freaks out because they need a diaper, and they disrupt the class and they are asked to leave. So this gets very, very serious, a very hard habit to break. So please don't do this. Let's talk about poop for a minute. The scoop on poop. Remember, pooping is very private and primal. So a lot of times if your child's having some anxiety about pooping in the potty or on the toilet, see if you can't leave the room for a second. Get them all situated and, oh, I left the stove on. I'll be right back. A lot of times they can release it when you're not there. So, we begin potty training. We haven't cared at all about when they poop. We just know that it stinks when their diaper's full and we change them. We don't really pay too much attention to how it's coming. And then we start potty training and boom, potty chair's in the middle of the floor. All of a sudden we're watching them like a hawk and there's this like giant spotlight on the kid. So just remember that privacy can go a long way. If you have a child who runs and hides, even when you're potty training, go put the potty chair wherever they want to hide. They might just be hiding for privacy. So I have kids, the potty chair will be in like a little tent or a fort. It'll be behind the couch. It can be under the kitchen table. I'm really not picky in those first couple of months because you know what? We want to support your kid again. Bathroom etiquette is going to come. Your kid's going to go into the bathroom and close the door and leave you alone and eventually wipe his own butt. But for the beginning phases, to support your child however you can. Remember that going in front of others can be jarring, so privacy is needed. The last thing is remember that the anus is a sphincter muscle and it opens and closes with emotion, both good and bad emotion. So this is a great warning if you're going somewhere really exciting, like the Lego store or Legoland or Day Out with Thomas or anything that really jazzes your kid up. Remember that they might have to poop right away. So just be prepared for that because the anus opens when it's very happy and the anus also slams shut when it's very anxious. And so what normally happens is that it's very common to not get a poop on the first couple of days of potty training, and moms will start freaking out because the kid pooped 2 or 3 times with a diaper on. Oh my God, they're not pooping. And it's just a little performance anxiety. Don't worry about it. But they start getting really anxious and high strung. And then your child picks up on that nonverbal communication and that anus will stay closed. So the performance anxiety is very natural. I'm not telling you this to be condescending. Do your best not to be anxious. I'm not like, oh, just calm down and it will be okay. That's not necessarily the case, but do your best to stay really level, really use, a soft voice, make it as comfortable as possible for your child to poop because that anxiety will just keep that anus super clenched. You want to ascertain if your child is having trouble with poop. You want to ascertain if you're dealing with constipation or withholding. So a lot of people contact me and they're a little confused. Constipation is when your child is willing to go, but nothing comes out. So, your kid will be, they'll understand that they have to go. They'll sit, they're willing to entertain you. They're like, yeah, Mom, I'll sit on the potty for hours, but nothing comes out. Chances are you're dealing with constipation. Withholding is when your child obviously has to go and is obviously preventing the anus from opening. You're going to excuse me. My nose is just getting stuffy as I'm speaking here, so I'm sniffling a lot. I apologize. So withholding and constipation often play in with each other. A child who withholds will get constipated. And if a child gets too constipated, they will withhold because it could be painful. But withholding is, you almost always know when you have it because your child will dance on their tippy toes. They'll hold their butt. Pooping is super dramatic and you can see them holding it in. You might see their little butt cheeks clench. You can see it happening. The best solution for constipation is more fat, not more fiber. So don't run to fiber. Fiber needs so much fluid to bulk it up and to make it be effective that oftentimes kids just can't take in that fluid. Upping their fat is ideal. So get in that avocado. I highly recommend coconut products, coconut milk, full fat coconut milk in a can. If you can make smoothies or popsicles with that. Coconut oil, even medicinally a half a teaspoon, that usually loosens things up just the perfect amount. The best solution for withholding is what I call the poop fix. And I don't have time to go through it today, but it is on my YouTube channel, which is Oh Crap with Jamie on YouTube. And it's a 5-part series on pooping. So the second one is number 2 is the poop fix. And that's just a protocol that really helps with your basic withholding. There is severe withholding, and this is called encopresis. Severe withholding, you will know if you have it. Pooping is so dramatic. I've had parents on the edge of a divorce. It can rip a family apart. It can be so incredibly painful for everybody involved. Huge drama, huge holding poop for 3 weeks at a time, not letting it out. This is pretty serious, and you do need help with it. So I have certified experts that are well-versed in this, as am I, although I'm not taking new clients right now. But you definitely, if you suspect you have encopresis, please, please, please get help. Do not try to do it alone, and you're not crazy. Your child's not messing with you. We call it, in the industry, we call it the anus of steel, and it's hard. All right, guys, that wraps up this webinar. So, of course, you have my book, which has a ton of other information. You can join us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, Oh Crap with Jamie, or Oh Crap Potty Training on Facebook. We have lots of quick tip videos on Facebook. I do have certified experts available for consultations, and they're always running groups and deals and private consultations. This is all on jamieglowacki.com under Find an Expert. If you would like to become an expert, if you suspect you'd be really good working with families and helping them through this milestone, then you can find that on the website under Become an Expert. I know, very clever with my titles here. My blog and my YouTube channel have tons of information. There's a podcast. You can access my podcast right through the website. My blog has over 250 potty training posts. I never thought I would have 250 potty training posts when I began potty training blogging. So I hope that you reach out for all these resources. We try our best every time. There's very few scenarios that I haven't heard of at this point in time. There's tons of resources. Please go look for them. I want to support you in your success. All right. I hope you guys have a great day, and I hope this gave you a lot of confidence to get on the path to potty training and just do it with confidence and ease. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.